Welcome, everyone. I am Valerie Martinez, and tonight is all about our Albuquerque Poet Laureate, Michelle Otero, who's been with us from 2018 to 2020. And everything tonight is in celebration of her tenure as Poet Laureate and of her as a poet. We're going to start with a yummy mocktail, followed by guest appearances, poems, and music in tow by Tanesia Hale-Jones, Patty Stevens, and Levi Romero and Margaret Randall. And the highlight, of course, is our laureate, Michelle, who will read some poetry and take us into a dance party. I hope you have your cocktail glass and party shoes, so get ready. I also want to introduce on this screen the Albuquerque Poet Laureate Organizing Committee. So I'm a member of that committee, and if you just wave other members, Mindy Grossberg, Don McIver, Liza Wolf-Francis, Tanesia Hale-Jones. For about 10 years, the organizing committee has been working to bring you Albuquerque Poet Laureate. We're a grassroots organization. We wanted to do this apart from a municipal agency, but now we have the generous support of the city of Albuquerque, and we're so grateful for their support for the program. So the Albuquerque Poet Laureate program has a mission that's really important to us. We celebrate poetry by recognizing a resident poet who makes meaningful connections, honors and serves our diverse community, elevates the importance of the art form, and shares poetry with Albuquerque residents. We have a 2-year process, a separate selection committee that really comes to a consensus on who the Poet Laureate should be after they review applications. We're very proud of this process, and we think that Albuquerque has one of the most stellar lineups of Poets Laureate of any city in the United States. So give it up for the Albuquerque Poet Laureate program. And so we're here to celebrate the program and to celebrate Michelle. So now it's time to party, and I'm going to turn it over to Don McIver, who's also on the organizing committee, also a terrific poet. And tonight he's going to concoct our signature mocktail, Add Your Own Spirits, to celebrate Michelle. Don, I think this has something to do with watermelon juice and elderflower syrup.
What we're going to do is, and I'm going to make the alcoholic version, is called a Sandias Sunset. And it requires champagne. And for champagne, I went to the Gruet winery and got some local champagne. I think you can't really call it champagne. I think you have to call it sparkling wine. But the Gruet winery, chilled. And let's see if we can do this. Okay. And yes, it's pouring everywhere. So you want to fill about halfway through. Bubble, settle back down. Okay. Then you want to add some watermelon juice. And I didn't actually chill the watermelon juice, so you should chill it. And we're just going to make sure it's nice and cold. Okay. Then we have just a splash of simple syrup. We top it off with some fresh leaves from Susan McAllister's mint bush. And this is the Sandia Sunset.
I have a question, Don. Is there a non-alcoholic version of it?
Yes, you can make this, if you substitute sparkling water for champagne, it's a very simple version of the drink that's non-alcoholic. Okay, so I'm going to hand this over to Michelle.
Hey, Michelle. Now, before you drink up or while you drink up, we are going to have a toast poem by Tanesia Hale-Jones. But first, I want to let everyone know that Michelle's parents are here with us and joining us for the evening. Michelle, would you like to say something about your rents?
Yes, so I just wanted to welcome some special guests, Albert and Genevieve Otero, live from Deming, New Mexico. And I'd also like to point out that half of Albuquerque's Poets Laureate are graduates of Deming High School. So something's going right there.
Wow,
Jessica Held and I are both Deming Wildcats, so go Wildcats, and thank you for some great English teachers who taught us to love reading and love poetry and love language. And then I also wanted to acknowledge my husband, Henry Rael, who's also here with us this evening and might be popping in and out of the camera. So,
hi, Henry.
Hey.
So it is my pleasure to introduce Tanesia, friend and fellow member of the APLP Organizing Committee. Tanesia is also a poet, collaborative artist, educator, social activist, and parent who believes deeply in the importance of community engagement and teaching students to be global citizens. Tanesia.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Michelle. I was very honored to write your toast poem. I have known Michelle for a very long time, and I was thinking about, like, what do you say in a toast? And Michelle and I always laugh about, like, we're research poets, so we're like, we have to go read a bunch of stuff so we know how to write this poem. So I was just really reflecting on the time that I've known her and the different poetry experiences that we've had together, writing together, collaborating, and then also the past 2 years. So this is a toast poem for Michelle Otero. Poetry is hard, Michelle tells us one night at the bar. She says it and we laugh, but damn, poetry is hard. Poetry's vehicle, language, is inventive and made up and precise and exacting and expansive and slippery and sexy and radical and righteous and debilitating, and never, not even when you sit with it for hours, does it mind its manners. So yes, poetry is hard. Poetry is what we use to call our ancestors out from behind us where they watch. Our voices diffused on the heat of the evening, suffused with copal, sage, salt. Poetry is what we use to slow dream rhythm and shared stories, the joyful hurt journey, our collected poem stories, the quietness of being side by side. Poetry is fabricating detail from the spectacular gloss of history, testing the juiciness of what could be, what we use to explain the feel of a single feather, its angled, soft rigidity, or 1,000 feathers atop the crown of a goddess, deity, prayer being. Poetry is her, that goddess. Poetry is divinity. So yes, poetry is hard. It is the body in motion, in cumbia, all hips and arms curving and carving through the air. In folklorico, a blur of ribbons and boots and ruffled edges. It is the path through the bosque, diverted by spring runoff, dusted with cottonwood tufts, dappled by late day sun, obscured by clouds of mosquitoes. Poetry is hard because it keeps telling the story of time and iteration and ceremony as both a single candle and the magnetic heat of bodies multiplied. It tells the story of how a few words could be the whole world or a triangle. It is the gathering at the site of degradation and oppression to begin again. It is the gathering of the wildness of who we know ourselves to be, touching our heartbreaks, touching our joy, lip to hand to cheek to eyelid. And yes, poetry is hard dreamy and woven with the threads of white-blue morning light. It is always disappearing and reappearing, even as it takes up residence inside our collective imaginations. Poetry may be hard, but Michelle made it quite irresistible. Tonight, I invite us all to raise our glasses in celebration of Michelle Otero's tenure as Albuquerque's fourth Poet Laureate and her contribution of writing the difficulty and the brilliance and sharing its beautiful possibilities with us. To Michelle.
Michelle.
Hey, Michelle. Well, everyone, you know we're in the midst of a global pandemic. So we would love to be putting our arms around Michelle this whole time. So this is the way we have to do it. So with your drink, with your hands, with your, any way you do it, let's just send Michelle so much love throughout the evening in the way that you do that best. So next, we're going to celebrate Michelle with some music by Patty Stevens. Patty is active in the New Mexico music and art scene as a singer, writer, teacher, and activist. Her main focus, after years of performing and producing with top-notch musicians in New Mexico, is community singing. She teaches voice from her studio in Duranes and is music director at Bosque Center for Spiritual Living. She is a member of the faculty of the New Mexico Jazz Workshop and teaches voice for NDI New Mexico. Everybody, let's welcome Patty.
Hi, everyone. Michelle, I just want to tell you what an honor it is to be included in this party. I feel that you have served and inspired our community very well. So I'm part of a community that gets together and we collectively write songs that people can sing because our belief is that singing together is really good for all of us and for the collective consciousness. So this is a song that we wrote, Grandma's Garden. And it goes like this. Your garden, my garden, growing strong and green. Your garden, my garden, growing by the stream. Let's water together, celebrate the weeds. When we eat our watermelon, we'll swallow all the seeds. Yeah, your garden, my garden, growing by the stream. Big garden, little garden, working with our hands. Big garden, little garden, playing 'cause we can. We'll dance through the flowers, climb all the trees, get chased by the grasshoppers and get barefoot with the bees. Yeah, big garden, little garden, playing 'cause we can. Old garden, new garden, changing like the breeze. Oh, old garden, new garden, growing love and peace. Hold on to your hat, let your heart shine golden. When the compost hits the fan, we want to be wide open. Old garden, new garden, growing love and peace. Grandma's garden, holy garden, growing who've we been. Grandma's garden, holy garden, showing up again. Well, we planted ourselves, we harvest new fruit. We eased on down the road and we're setting new roots. Yeah, Grandma's garden, holy garden, Grandma's garden, holy garden, showing up again. Yeah, Grandma's garden, holy garden, showing
Fantastic. Let's give it up for Patty. Woohoo!
Woo!
Just the kind of pick-me-up we all need right now. Thank you so much, Patty.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Next up, two more poets in what I have to describe as a phenomenally vibrant Albuquerque poetry scene. I've lived in Albuquerque since 2005, and I always tell people that one of the things I love the most about this town are the poets and the poetry community. We have all different kinds of poets in Albuquerque, and I've never seen a place where poets collaborate so much and intermingle so much. And so I feel like it's a really wonderful place of both artists, musicians, poets, and creative sorts of all kinds. So Albuquerque, I grew up in Santa Fe, but Albuquerque is my kind of grown-up home and my community. So that's where I met Michelle. So that makes it extra special. So next up, two poets, Margaret Randall and then Levi Romero. So I'll start by introducing Margaret. Margaret is a poet, essayist, oral historian, translator, photographer, and social activist. I think we all knew that, but I'm going to say it. She has published more than 150 books of poetry, essays, and oral histories. Among her most recent poetry collections are The Morning After, Poetry and Prose for a Post-Truth World, Against Atrocity, and Times Language, Selected Poems 1959 to 2018. In 2019, Cuba's Casa de las Americas gave her its prestigious Heidi Santa Maria Medal. We love you, Margaret. I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you so much. And thank you, Michelle, for inviting me to be part of this. It's really thrilling. I had no idea that I would be in such an illustrious company. I've got my non-alcoholic cocktail here too. When you invited me, Michelle, you said that you hoped I would read a celebratory poem. And that's difficult because my poems are not really celebratory, or they haven't been. So I wrote one. This is the poem that I'm going to read. It's called I Celebrate, and I wrote it for tonight. Let me celebrate this cobalt sky, blazing desert fire and red rock canyons, revealing messages from those who went before, the stories they tell as I listen to their wonder and their warnings. I celebrate each child, grandchild, and great-grandchild, human line of personhood I follow in a feedback loop, back to myself, astonished and grateful as I trace my oldest questions on their lips. I celebrate the woman who walks beside me, beloved companion on this journey, artist's eye and perfect temperature of skin, crinkling laugh lines about her eyes that see too much and just enough. I celebrate my own worn body, wrinkles and sag where muscles once held forth. This body that still serves and energizes, sustaining the weight of memory, bringing it home in grace. And I celebrate memory itself, self-satisfied trickster, fusion of pain and joy, ribbon of indelible moments that nourish me in the dark times and through the empty spaces. I rejoice in these words I birth and celebrate my people's cries. Our songs weave even as it may taunt me, hide or murmur behind my back, chatter incoherently as my voice becomes part of its warp and weft. I celebrate our indelible grief, hard knots bursting with scattered tendrils of hope. Beyond this shadow of avarice and sickness, racist hate and twisted power, I celebrate our victories as we bring them forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you so much. It is a tumultuous time in our nation, maybe a time when I really do think about the power of poetry, and maybe the unique power of poetry to tell us the truth, to celebrate, to chronicle what needs to be changed. And Margaret, you've made a career of that. And thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Thank you all. This is a wonderful gathering.
So like Margaret, our next poet maybe doesn't need much of an introduction, but I do need to introduce you, Levi Romero. And so I'm going to give you the formal treatment, just like Margaret.
Okay.
Levi was selected as the inaugural New Mexico Poet Laureate. So I guess we should all put up our hands right now for that. New Mexico has joined the, 48 other states. He is our first New Mexico Poet Laureate. His most recent book, Querencia, Reflections on the New Mexico Homeland, co-edited with Vanessa Fonseca Chavez and Spencer Herrera, was published in June this month. He is the co-author of Sagrado, a photo poetics across the Chicano homeland. His two collections of poetry are A Poetry of Remembrance, New and Rejected Works, and In the Gathering of Silence. He is an assistant professor in the Chicana and Chicano Studies Department at UNM, where he directs the New Mexico Cultural Landscape Certificate Program and the Digital Cuentos Project. Levi, welcome.
Thank you, Val, and thank you, Michelle, for inviting me to be a part of this beautiful celebration of your 2 years as Albuquerque Poet Laureate. And as Val was saying, you know, the diversity of poets in Albuquerque, storytellers and busteros and baosos and baosas, and, you know, people that just really empower us with their stories and the way that they reach out to us with their words. And that exists so strongly in Albuquerque and in the community. And I think that, you know, when I found out that you were actually going up for the Albuquerque Poet Laureate position, I couldn't think of anybody better for that, because you actually have that magic to bring people together. And you've done it always constantly since I've known you. And you've done it through the Albuquerque Poet Laureate program. And that's exactly what we need, is somebody that can bring people together, and the nurturing and the healing, and you know, just creating that form of community that we're in such a bad need of, you know. And a perfect example of that was the other evening when we did the Burque Poetas reading Burque, you know, and what everybody said afterwards was that just how much they missed that community and how much they realized that they needed it. And I did too. And, you know, I think we kind of just sort of fall into whatever moments we happen to be living in, and we do what we have to do to survive, but we don't realize how much we really need each other. And saying thank you for bringing us together and to holding us together in that special space. I don't have a celebratory poem. I've never been one to do my homework assignment right. I didn't really know we had to have a celebratory poem, but what I do have is a poem that I wrote a few years ago when I was in Madrid, Spain, and I was walking around the Plaza Mayor, and I happened to see this sculpture, this statue. And what are we dealing with these days if, you know, not issues around sculptures and statues? So I was just inspired to write about it, not knowing anything about it. And then later on, I Googled it, and, you know, I found some things about it that I'll share with you at the end of the poem. But the poem is called El Peso del Compromiso. He had never found it to be such a problem before. But lately, these acts of charity and generosity felt like a bad crucible. The weight upon him didn't feel heavy. It was light and thin, as a gold stream of words flowing from the ripped page of his international dictionary. How could his good intentions be so misconstrued? He pondered, but he had no answer, and another deadline, pale and hungry, was approaching. Conversations were one-sided and topsy-turvy. Prayer only seemed to distance him further. Further from what? It's like he knew, but couldn't explain. A lot of good that does, he thought, as he approached the podium. I feed them when they hunger. I give them drink when they thirst. And all for what? They will commission a sculpture of my likeness. I will be the gallant pseudo-hero mounted on a rearing stallion. Hundreds of years from now, after they have knocked off my head, I will have even less to say. And so the story about that statue is this. I'll try to read it kind of quickly here, but the poem El Peso del Compromiso was inspired by a sculpture I saw at the center of La Plaza Mayor in Madrid, Spain. It is a bronze statue of King Philip III, constructed in 1616 by the Italian sculptors Giovanni da Bologna and his apprentice Pietro Tacca. During the early stages of the Franco dictatorship of Spain, relics and statues with connections to the Spanish monarchy were defaced or destroyed. The Felipe III statue was no exception, and it was pulled from its stone mount. As the bronze statues toppled and smashed onto the cobbles of the Plaza Mayor, hundreds of small bones toppled out of the hollow statue. The superstitious vandals instantly stopped their destruction, thinking the bones were from the guardian spirit of Felipe III, and refused to damage the statue any further. The bones were later identified as the skeletons of small-town dwelling birds, but the mystery as to why they had been collected in the statue remained a puzzle until the statue was repaired during the 1950s. While repairing the statue, a small hole was discovered that allowed birds to enter, but due to the angle, prevented their exit. So there is the mystery about that statue that I didn't even know about. So anyways, Michelle, there is a little poem for you that has to do with so much of what we're going through in this country right now. And, but blessings to you and to what you've done for us in a time of need. Muchas gracias. Que Dios te bendiga.
Thanks, Levi. Let's give it up for Levi. Thank you so much. So we're getting closer to the big event. That's a reading by Michelle, but I want to acknowledge our crew, our technical crew tonight. In the city of Albuquerque, that's Bree Ortiz with special events, Diego Lucero, Anthony Rodriguez, and Jen Lucero, I'm going to talk about in just a moment. So if you could give it up for them who are making this happen. I would like to hope that poets that were very tech savvy all of the time, but we do need help from the people that know what they're doing. So I want to first have us take a look at what our fourth poet laureate did during her tenure. Here, thanks to Jen Lucero, who has been pretty incredible in assisting Michelle with her community projects and documenting everything with photographs and helping us with all of these online events. Jen, thank you so much. Let's take a walk down memory lane. Here's what Michelle did for the Albuquerque community in the last 2 years. And I encourage you as you watch to fill the comment section with words for Michelle.
¿Qué quieren estas compañías? Como la de Monsanto, acabar con nuestra cultura y lo que representamos. Si nos quitan estas semillas. Después nos harán comprarlas. Las semillas del chile verde. Y también todas mal alteradas. No se cree de compañías poderosas. Ellos solo quieren mandarnos al infierno si fuera posible, con tal de salir ganando. Lo que tenemos en nuestro estado es nuestro y muy sagrado. Debemos de cuidarlo siempre. Estos ladrones malvados. Es una vergüenza lo que hacen estas compañías grandes. Le menten a la gente tanto para poder apoderarse. Sí, pues hay que no dejarnos que cambien esas semillas, que no nos den gato por liebre, aunque lo tengan bien pintada. Lo que digo es muy cierto y aquí estamos de testigos. Quieren cambiar las semillas. Ellos son los enemigos.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you, Michelle. And I'm assuming that everybody who's watching tonight knows about Michelle's projects, and there are more than this, but her walking with poets along the bosque, her love for the river and for the bosque, alone together, getting people together once a month to create alone in a room, the vigil for the victims of the El Paso shooting last August, a beautiful event of poets, and many other readings and outreach projects and interactions with so many Burkens of all ages. And Michelle, thank you for all the hard work and all the beautiful work that we just saw there. I'm so happy now to more formally introduce Michelle, my friend, a fellow writer and artist, someone I've been so lucky to work with on many collaborative projects, especially the ECHO Women's Collaborative Poetry Projects. Michelle, our 4th Albuquerque Poet Laureate. As I searched around for how to describe Michelle and her work, I found something lovely in New Mexico Magazine, written by Megan Kamrick. Shout out to Megan. Well, I'm going to quote from that article. I think it's a really befitting way to describe Michelle. And so I quote, and we'll also hear Michelle's words in this. Michelle Otero has long loved to show people the poetry that surrounds them every day. Raised in Deming, she earned a bachelor's degree in history with honors from Harvard. It took her a while to find her way to writing and to see that poetry was always there. She recalls hearing dichos, sayings, and proverbs that usually rhymed. Quote, I was surrounded by people who used language in really beautiful ways, she says. After graduation, she did a 2-year volunteer stint in Belize, where she read constantly and journaled daily. She eventually completed a master's in creative writing at Vermont College of Fine Arts and was awarded a Fulbright scholarship to create writing workshops in Oaxaca, Mexico. Prayers to them right now. They've just experienced an earthquake. There for women who survived domestic and sexual violence. Her book of essays, Malinche's Daughter, grew from that experience. Her Walking with Poets project encourages people to write about the bosque along the Rio Grande, and she will edit an anthology of that work after her term as Poet Laureate. And there's this, one of my favorite quotes by Michelle. I like New Mexico because it's real, because the only way people have managed to live here over hundreds of years is by cooperating, because we are complicated and complex. I like New Mexico for the light, the smell of rain, the way the sky reminds you of your place in the world. Deming taught me the value of community in the best sense. There are people watching out for you who are going to take care of you. Michelle, so proud to introduce you with so much love from my heart and so much gratitude for everything that you've done for us. Please share some of your beautiful poetry.
Thank you all so much. I'm thinking of what it would be like to all be together in the same space, and I know there will come a time when we're able to do that again. But part of what I love so much about this format is that we each bring in a part of our homes and our families with us. So I love being able to peek behind you and see your artwork and your books and the pottery that my uncle made in my parents' kitchen, and your plants and your backyards. It's a real gift to have to bring a piece of us into this space. There are so many people to thank, and I just apologies ahead of time because I'm sure I won't name everyone, and so I just want to kind of start with this organizing committee. Thank you so much for letting me sit in community with you at our meetings, for moving our meetings to more fun places than a boardroom, and for being there when I said, like, yeah, poetry's hard, and it is, and yet think of what poetry is doing for us now in this time and how much harder this time would be without it. If there was ever a time to celebrate poetry and to lose ourselves in it, it is here and now. So I want to thank the Albuquerque poetry community, so many of whom showed up for our reading, the reading that Levi and I co-hosted last Thursday. But also just all the folks who show up with their journals and their pens on the walks that we host monthly, our Walking with Poets series. The high school students, the elementary school students who are just so delighted when they realize you can write a poem pretending to be a porcupine in the bosque. You can write it in that voice, and seeing the miracle of somebody who didn't think that poetry or language could be theirs, embrace that. It's a beautiful thing, and it's been such a powerful gift to share that and witness it. I'd like to thank Mayor Tim Keller, the City Council, Dr. Shel Sanchez, and the City of Albuquerque Cultural Services Department, some of whom are with us this evening, for their support of the program, for just having a space for poetry and for bringing poets into places where you wouldn't normally have them, like a rally, a rally on Civic Plaza, or to inaugurate, or to open up a new museum. It's for normalizing poetry and for making it a thing that doesn't have to be scary or hard, but can actually be some of the way that we communicate in the world. I want to thank my predecessors, Hakeem Bellamy, Jessica Helen Lopez, and Manuel Gonzalez, and thank you for setting such a high bar and for welcoming me into this community. And I look forward to join the ranks of the Poets Laureate Emerita. And I also want to thank my successor, who I'm not going to name because it's a secret. We don't know yet. So tune in July 1st, you'll all find out. Very exciting. I want to thank the folks who are contributing to tonight, not only the organizing committee, but Tanesia, Levi, Margaret. Each of you represents a different part of my poetic journey. So I remember meeting Levi at Macondo in 2006. I had just come back from Oaxaca and felt like such a fish out of water. And to hear his voice and just know automatically that guy's from New Mexico. Like, it was like coming home. And Margaret, to sit with you, and Barbara and Andrea Serrano and Mary Oishi, and in Mary's living room for those years of Sunday Salon, and just to be able to hear your words and your encouragement over time really helped me to call myself a poet. So thank you. Thank you both for your beautiful words tonight. And Tanesia, I think we came together through a reading at the Harwood and kind of decided how we would work together. And every collaboration since then has been so fun and challenging in the best ways, because you make me think about language in ways that I don't otherwise. So thank you for opening that up for me, for your beautiful blessing. Our musicians, Patty and Felipe Roybal. Patty, I'm so glad my stepdaughter needed voice lessons all those years ago, or wanted them, and then I kind of snuck in on that and took my own voice lessons. So thank you for the ways you create community around music. And Jen Lucero, I feel like Jennifer is just like the unsung hero of the Poet Laureate program. Early on, I realized I just realized like I need someone who can just help me put out newsletters and do these things that are that can be the thankless part of this, but are so important for maintaining community. So if you've received a Facebook post or a newsletter, or you've seen beautiful pictures, or you've had a question answered, or you've submitted something to our Bosque Poetry Anthology via Submittable, that is all because of Jennifer Lucero. So thank you so much, Jen. And, finally, I want to thank, estoy pensando en las creativas en Oaxaca esta noche, entonces espero que estén bien, las quiero mucho, 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 las extraño y espero que estén seguras y que estén escribiendo en estos tiempos, y pronto estaremos juntos. And I want to thank my family, my parents who are here with us this evening. Thank you for, thanks for just understanding that you can, it's okay that you have a Harvard degree and you want to write. So thanks for just like supporting that and just supporting what I've wanted to do in my life, even when you haven't completely understood it. And my brothers who will be, who aren't on screen but are with us, my in-laws, tíos, tías, primos, primas, and all my ancestors in the spirit world. And then finally, my little family here in this house, my husband, Henry Rael, Paloma, Kiki, our fur babies who just make life interesting every day, even though we're just home. Okay, I'm going to share a few poems. Also, I just want to say this painting behind me, speaking of poets, Albuquerque isn't just a great place for poets, but it's an amazing place for artists. And some of the folks on this Zoom are also visual artists. This piece behind me is by Alberto Gutierrez, who's a wonderful painter in the South Valley. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him because it's exquisite. Okay, here we go. To share with you. And they all relate, they're all kind of celebratory about Albuquerque, with just a bit of sadness because a lot of my poems are a little bit sad too, and I think that's appropriate for this time. Seed packet for dry land. Wrap in old rags, plant after last freeze, shoulder deep in dark soil. Drop water to survive dry times. How to measure sunlight, how to thrive when late rain, no rain, elk raid, frost. You know this. Everything breaks to become what it is. You know this. It is all dry land. When time comes, winnow, grind into coarse flour, take to river where we are enough. This next poem was inspired by one of our poetry walks. This one was really wonderful, they were all wonderful, but you can see some of them. We've gone virtual since the pandemic hits. We have a few wonderful poetry walk videos on our Facebook page. This particular Simbanya. My natural surroundings try to leave me alone. Cicada doesn't need me to be. I tighten my bootlaces to enter the wilderness of myself, bug sprayed and SPF slathered, tethered to traffic stream. I wait for hunger, rub my eyes, imagine losing a contact lens, and then what? My husband could be a cottonwood or bear. When I leave the civilization of me, I wait for my hair to tangle and nest, for dirt to gather in fingernails. When was I last alone? What are my landmarks? Sorrow in belly, chicken pockmark etched in lip, mother's hunger, mulberry stripped of bark, grandpa's fear, the far bank, grandma's rage, the path, sandbar, a ship inside me, empty garage where grandpa fixed cars, shell casing, gun nest, child seed never watered. I had a dream of being a bird. When have I ever fallen to my knees in gratitude? Does the ant bend under object? Does it feel the heaviness? Natural surroundings, call me, tell me my name. And I'd like to end with an excerpt from a collaborative poem. I don't know that I would have had a doorway into poetry in Albuquerque without being invited to collaborate with wonderful poets. Through the ECHO project, which was started by VALERIE Martinez and Shel Sanchez, and just through other wonderful readings, times when we've gathered together to create, and when we've gathered together simply to be in the presence of one another, to mourn, to celebrate, to mark passages. So this particular excerpt of a poem comes from Burke, O Burke, Atom, and Eva. It's an Echo Poets reading performance, and it's from the Culture Shift National Convening, which happened in Albuquerque in November of 2018, and was co-created and co-performed by VALERIE Martinez, Monica Sanchez, and me. From the foothills, this place of sacred sanctity. On the first day God made the kitchen, she gathered flames from a distorted guitar. She gathered city lights to the ruffles of her broomstick skirt. She cut the ice-cold sandia into small pieces, into us, her children, 100% green chile dreams. Burke, sunrise eyes revealing our ancestors' fingerprints on petroglyphs. The horizon is a channel widening between clouds and sky, a thunderstorm, the way black enters from the north and veers right under cloud heft. Burke, going in curves and circles, always spinning out. Every morning from the foothills, the ancestors' pulse shimmers and glimmers down. Burke is small, creation inside a giant horizon, more sky than city, turning, shifting, cruising low and slow, roaming the ID on Central. City of misperceptions, are you shifting? Tectonic plates in loud crashes, city of underground melodies. Burke calls, echoing to the valley, together with elemental allies, the little ones, our ancestors, orishas. Orishas, orishas, we dance.
Thank you, Michelle. Everybody give it up for Michelle. More love, more applause, more snapping, more celebrating. Thank you, Michelle, so much. One of the things that I think about in terms of your tenure is how much really celebration of this place, of this town, has been the signature of your tenure. How many words have been written because of you about Albuquerque, about our community. So I think that all of our Poets Laureate have generated that kind of work, and yours has a specific flavor of the places in Albuquerque, or Rio Grande, and family and community. And so I also want to thank your parents. Parents of poets are very special people, I have to say. because they don't always understand what we do as poets, but somehow they support us. It's not a avocation or a vocation that's going to make a lot of money usually. And so I know with my own parents that their trust in our love for the written word, it takes some courage to support a poet and to follow him or her or they through their career. So parents, Michelle's parents, I honor you, and I honor all the generations of ancestors of poets in this place who feed us and encourage us against all odds to keep writing about what we love and our community and our places and our families and the history that belongs to all of us, no matter how complicated and difficult and complex. You have given us permission, parents, to write about the things that are the most important to us and the most urgent, especially right now. So thank you, parents, and parents of parents and parents of parents of parents, all our ancestors. So it's time to get up and dance, everyone, because we want to sort of carry out this celebration with moving our bodies. And so I want to introduce our final guest. But before I do that, I do want to invite you to the announcement of the secret next Poet Laureate, which will be on Wednesday, July 1st. Stay tuned. We will let you know what time that will be. We've actually had to be mum about this for quite a long time as an organizing committee. It hasn't been easy, but we like to do a kind of fun reveal of the next Poet Laureate. So I want us to celebrate the last days of June, which is the end of Michelle's tenure, and on July 1st, we have a new Albuquerque Poet Laureate to celebrate. So we are gonna dance it out with the music of Felipe Ruibal. Felipe is from Pojoaque and spent his early years honing his singing skills in the Nuestra Señora de Guadalupe Parish Choir. While studying in Guadalajara, Mexico, Felipe was awarded Mejor Cantante, Best Vocalist, by El Tecnológico de Monterrey Arts Department. In 2004, as lead vocalist and composer of Nosotros, Ruibal received Traditional Hispanic Song of the Year and Album of the Year by the New Mexico Music Industry Awards. He was named 2008 Latin Entertainer of the Year by New Mexico Musicians Fund Awards, and in 2009, Albuquerque Magazine's Best of the City Vocalist. Ruibal is now a middle school Spanish teacher at South Valley Academy. He continues to compose for and perform with the 10-piece group Nosotros, as well as being a soloist. All right, everyone, let's dance out the evening together with Felipe. Thank you, Michelle, Tanesia, Levi, Margaret, Patty, Felipe, Jen, Bree, Diego, the APLP Organizing Committee, and everyone else on this call, and all of you out there who are celebrating with us tonight. Good night, Michelle, we love you, and thank you so much.
Muy buenas noches, les de Dios. I'm Felipe Ruibal. I've prepared some songs for you this evening, some original pieces that of course reconcile with the beauty of this place as well as the challenges we face in the spirit of Michelle, and also a special piece, a cover that is special to her. I hope you guys enjoy this evening, y muchas bendiciones.
¿Quieres en tu vida alegría? Que acabe la guerra y injusticia de más, pensando en los últimos días. El sol aparece por la Dale, 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 dale. La plebe quiere un cambio, se queda dentro de nosotros mismos. Dale la mano al caído, mano. Abre tu mente, llena, llena la alma. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 como dice la canción, dares, dar. Recórrelo por todo como fantasma. Habla como el agua que dirige. Cuando los ojos se sequen, ya no sacan la sequía y no corren ni en la memoria. Esperanza azul fría y bendita, yendo de la presa hasta la puerta. Ya no sabes si llegará. Esta agua que da vida como sangre en la vena del parciante. Se le va mayor la voz fresca del agua, el aviso del cielo. Se le va mayor lo bendito de la tierra húmeda. Se le va mayor el consuelo de las nubes. Se le va la promesa verde. Solo le queda la mentira blanca. La voz fresca del agua, el aviso del cielo, se eleva, lo bendito de la tierra húmeda, se eleva, consuelo de la nube, se eleva, la promesa verde, solo le queda la mentira blanca. Semilla, raíz, rama, piña, flor. 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 El río desborda y mata, el arroyo rega y canta. Semilla, raíz, rama, piña, flor. Alaban el monte y siembran el llano, hermano. Semilla, raíz, rama, piña, flor. Lo que en el agua viene, el agua se va. Semilla, raíz, rama, piña, flor, manantial de amor. Dicen que por las noches nomás se le iban puro llorar. Dicen que no dormía, nomás se le iban puro tomar. Juran que el mismo cielo se estremecía al oír su llanto. Cómo sufrió por él, que hasta en su muerte la fue amando. Ay, 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 ay. Cantaba. a la casita sola con sus puertitas de par en par. Juran que esa paloma no era otra cosa más que su alma, que todavía la espera a que regrese la desdichada. Ay, 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 cantaba no llores, las piedras ambas palama cabanas de amores. Cucurrucucú, cucurrucucú, cucurrucucú. Paloma llega, no le llorares.
Eso.
Well, that's it for tonight, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. What a beautiful night. And stay healthy and hold your loved ones tight as best as you can do. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.